If you've ever stood in front of a kitchen counter wondering whether that next big-ticket appliance is really going to make a difference, you're not alone. The hesitation comes from a very real place. Spending money on a blender that sounds impressive on paper but ends up just taking up space, making a racket, or breaking down after a few months is a risk nobody wants to take. You want to know if this particular Vitamix model will actually slip into your daily routine, cut down on prep time, and stay quiet enough that you don't have to whisper while you're making a smoothie. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break down why the Vitamix Quick and Quiet might be the right or the wrong choice for you, based on how people actually use blenders in a home versus a small-scale commercial setting. First off, this machine is built around a 2.7 horsepower motor that's marketed as 30% faster than the standard Vitamix line. In practice, that speed translates into a noticeable reduction in the time you spend on tasks like crushing ice for frozen drinks or turning raw vegetables into a smooth soup. I've seen home cooks who usually have to run the blender for a full minute to get a homogeneous texture cut that time down to about 40 seconds. That matters when you're juggling a morning routine with kids or trying to prep a batch of sauces in a tight window. Noise is the other big selling point. The Quiet label isn't just marketing fluff, it's a result of a compact, removable sound enclosure that actually dampens the motor's roar. In a busy household, that can make the difference between being able to run a blender while the baby is napping or having to wait until the house is dead silent. For anyone who has lived in an apartment building with thin walls, the quieter operation can be a real peacekeeper. That said, the enclosure adds an extra step when you need to clean the machine, and a few reviewers have mentioned that the extra plastic cover can collect splatter and requires a quick wipe after each use. Now, who should consider adding this to their countertop? If you're someone who makes smoothies, hot soups, nut butters, or frozen desserts on a regular basis, the 40-ounce Tritan container is a sweet spot, big enough for a family-size batch but still manageable to lift when it's full. The BPAB-free, shatter-resistant material means you won't have to worry about the jar cracking if you accidentally drop it, which is a genuine concern for busy cooks. The digital control panel with 10 preset programs also appeals to the Tritan crowd. You can press a button for a smoothie, hot soup, or frozen dessert, and the machine will adjust speed and blending time automatically. That reduces the learning curve for people who are intimidated by manual speed dials and want a more intuitive experience. On the flip side, if you only blend once a week or you're after a low-cost entry point for occasional use, this model might be overkill. The requirement for a 20-amp receptacle isn't just a technical footnote. Many older homes or apartment kitchens simply don't have that kind of outlet readily available. You might end up needing an electrician to add a dedicated circuit, which adds both cost and inconvenience. Also, the machine's robust motor and heavy-duty design mean it's built to run for long stretches, but that also makes the unit heavier and bulkier than a typical 2-liter blender. If countertop space is at a premium, the footprint could become a hassle. Talking about practical strengths, the most immediate benefit I've observed is how the motor handles continuous blending without overheating. A lot of consumer blenders will start to smell burnt or shut off after a minute of high-speed work, especially when crushing ice. The Vitamix's thermally capable motor keeps running, which is a relief for anyone who makes frozen drinks or grain-based batters that require longer blending times. Another real-world advantage is the durability of the container. Tritan isn't just a fancy name, it's resistant to the kind of staining you get from beet smoothies or turmeric soups, so the vessel stays clearer longer, and you don't have to replace it after a few months of heavy use. Weaknesses tend to surface in the day-to-day maintenance routine. The sound enclosure, while quiet, means you have to detach it if you want to clean the underside of the motor housing. Some users have reported that the plastic clips can become brittle over time, making the cover more of a hassle than a feature after a year or two. Additionally, the digital panel, though sleek, isn't waterproof. If you frequently splash liquid up the side while blending, you'll need to be careful not to let moisture get into the controls, or you could end up with an intermittent button that needs a dry wipe to work again. Another consideration is the cost versus the warranty. Vitamix backs this model with a 700-hour or 4-year warranty, which is generous for a countertop appliance. That warranty is essentially a promise that the motor and